Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 29 of the Halftime Sports Talk Show. I'm your host, Reese Kinder, back again with another week. Some big games from college football this past week, big playoff implications. We're also going to be looking into the newest 12-team playoff bracket that came out this past week, and all that and more coming up on episode 29 of the Halftime Sports Talk Show. Hello, everyone. It is a beautiful Wednesday, November 19th. Just like I mentioned in the intro, it was a huge week of college football, a lot of playoff implications, a lot of big games that unfolded this past weekend. Also, we're going to be looking at NFL as well today, and also some college basketball, a lot of big games from there. But this should be a great episode. So let's get this thing started with some college football. We're going to move into it now. And we're going to start off with our first game. It's Georgia versus Texas. This one was a big matchup on Saturday. Georgia won huge in this game, 35-10. We're going to get the stat line like we always do. Arch Manning, 251 yards, 27 for 43, one touchdown, one interception. And then Gunnar Stockton, 229 yards, 24 for 29, four TDs and an interception. In this game, in general, this game is in Athens. I did pick Georgia to win this on my pick'em, but this was a really good game. I thought it was going to be at the start, but Georgia came out there, played great defense, and this Texas team was not ready for the Bulldogs in this one. And you see the result. Georgia was just not able to do it against the Longhorns, and this is a tough loss for Texas because this eliminates them from the college football playoff, I think, in my opinion. Unless somehow, some way they were able to beat Texas A&M, then I just don't see how they make the college football playoff anymore. But, yeah, a really tough loss. Arch Manning, all the talk about possibly being drafted in the 2026 draft, I think now is just it's going to show that I don't think Arch Manning's quite ready for that big stage for the NFL. I think he's got to wait another year, maybe 2 years if it takes that. And Arch Manning has just been he's been a story this year. It started with the big hype of Arch Manning. Arch Manning's all this, all that. And then they played Ohio State that first game of the season. He didn't do that good. And then he had some struggles down the road, had some injury trouble, and then they beat Vanderbilt, who's supposed to be this good team, and then you see that they lose this Georgia game, and then now it's back to the same things like Arch Manning still needs a year or two to develop, and fair enough. I think the guy does. Arch Manning's a good quarterback, but I think he's just too young, and I think Texas put him out there too early, and that's why you see the result on the field. Georgia's able to get a big win. And Georgia as well, like going to Georgia side of things, Georgia has a lot to uncover about their football team. Gunnar Stockton is a good quarterback at times, but also at times he can be a bad quarterback, and we've seen that in instances this season that he's had trouble. He struggled against some teams like Auburn, for example. I forget some other teams. Alabama, also another one. So he's struggled against some decent teams this year, but a big win for Gunnar Stockton to boost his momentum and keep this Georgia team in playoff contention because Georgia's schedule remaining, it kind of gets easier. It kind of doesn't. They have Georgia Tech the last game of the season on Friday next week. It's the Thanksgiving annual tradition. After Thanksgiving, Georgia always plays Georgia Tech on Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, and then Georgia has Charlotte this weekend. It's the SEC cupcake slate. For everybody, they all play the FCS schools or the low tier group of five. Sorry, the camera shake there, but Georgia, they stay right now. They're at 4 in the college football playoff rankings. In order to stay there, they got to beat Georgia Tech. But I really don't have faith in this Georgia team to beat Georgia Tech. And I'll tell you why. It's because Georgia Tech last year went to Athens, played an outstanding game, lost on some questionable calls, I'd say, but it was a wonderful game. It's an instant classic. That I think I could watch again and again. And it was a really good game by both teams. It inevitably led Georgia into the college football playoff after beating Texas in the SEC championship. And, this Georgia team is good, But I think Georgia Tech, just amid their recent struggles, I mean, I know they won against Boston College, who's not very good, not good at all. They won by 2 points on the road, and then they lost to, I forgot who they lost. Oh, NC State. Yeah, you can't do that. But if Brent Key puts up the exact game plan that can beat the Bulldogs, I think it can happen. Because Georgia Tech is not a bad team. I think they've just underlooked. I think they've kind of, or not underlooked, they've overlooked their opponents these past 2 weeks, and I think Brent Key's going to get with those guys and be like, we can't do that. And I think they'll beat Pitt this weekend pretty easily, to be honest, in Atlanta. So I think Georgia Tech, I trust their ability to be able to win those games, be able to bounce back in situations. And if Georgia Tech wins this weekend, they're going to clinch the ACC no matter what. So even if they were to win the ACC, I think they could still make the college football playoff. But they have to beat Pitt this weekend, and I think they need to beat Georgia as well to make the college football playoff. But going away from Georgia Tech side of things, that's why I think they could beat Georgia. But yeah, Georgia, big win against Texas. We'll look at the college football playoff rankings here soon. But yeah, big win against Texas, and they were able to continue to ride momentum from just, I think, the Auburn game, to be honest. And they were able to ride that momentum, and they've continued to do so. So yeah, I really like this Georgia team moving forward. Maybe not against Georgia Tech, but if they make the college football playoff, I like to see what they can do. But our next game on the slate is Alabama versus Oklahoma. Alabama lost 23-21 in this game in Tuscaloosa, and I'm going to tell you why this is big in a second. But first, we're going to get stat line. John Mateer, 138 yards, 18 for 23, did nothing else. Ty Simpson, 326 yards, 25 for 42, one touchdown, one interception. A great game. I mean, you hear Ty Simpson 326 yards, you're like, wait, they won that game, right? No, they did not win this game. And here's the simple reason is Oklahoma's defense is really good, but their offense is not good. And Bama coming in this game, I should have, last week we didn't do a college football segment or anything. Last week I was going to make one of those videos again, and I was going to be like, I think Alabama's going to lose this game, because going into it, I was like, Ty Simpson's been good all year. He's been dominant ever since the Florida State game. He's been the guy. He's proven it time and time again. I'm like, I think he's going to prove it again here against Oklahoma. And boy, was I wrong. John Mateer didn't even have to do much. It was the Oklahoma defense that helped out this win. And this is why it's bad for Alabama. Alabama's now the 10th team in the bracket, and we'll show that later, but they're the 10th team in the college football playoff bracket. And if they lose, so they have a cupcake this weekend. They have Eastern Illinois. They should win that. But they're going to Jordan-Hare Stadium on a night game. I'm going to that game. That is going to be one of the loudest environments. And actually, I did not know this. I don't know the exact account. I was going to shout them out, but I saw this on X earlier. Alabama is 1-4 against Auburn in Iron Bowl history in night games, and this dates back to 2007. So dates back to 2007 when Auburn last played in the Iron Bowl against Alabama in Jordan-Hare Stadium. They won the game convincingly, and they won. This was like Tommy Tuberville years. They won convincingly, and the Alabama's 1-4 against Auburn in night games in the Iron Bowl in history. So this really screws Alabama for college football playoff hopes, even SEC championship hopes, because if Alabama loses this game, they are out of the college football playoff. Again, if they lose to Auburn, they're out of the college football playoff. And probably, I don't want to say this, but there's a chance Kalen DeBoer, I know a lot of Bama fans like him, but there's a chance that he could potentially either be on the hot seat or even get fired. Like, that's not my opinion. I think he won't get fired, but I've heard a lot of talk if he loses that game to Auburn, there's a chance he could get fired. And it sucks, too, because he's had a really good season. And this Oklahoma game, I don't think you should divine the season off one game, but if they do lose to Auburn, then there's some really serious conversations needing to be made with DeBoer. But just a great game plan by Coach Venables. He's a defensive minded guy, was a defensive coordinator at Clemson. Great game plan by him to limit Alabama's run game, to make Ty Simpson like force those plays into tight windows, and he was able to, not get some of his guys. I mean, he threw for he had 42 passing attempts, but that still wasn't good enough, and Oklahoma was able to get the win. So Oklahoma wins 23-21 in Tuscaloosa. Oklahoma gets their way into the college football playoff. We'll see what they do the next coming weeks. They have a cupcake this week and LSU the next week, so they should make the college football playoff for sure. But Alabama still got some questions to answer in weeks to come. Next game, though, on the slate is South Carolina and Texas A&M. Starting the show with 3 straight SEC versus SEC matchups. And South Carolina, I hate like that you guys lost this game, but I could have seen it coming. I was sitting on the couch watching this game on Saturday, and I was like, everybody's posting, oh, it's 30-3 at halftime, and I was like, they're still gonna lose this game. I even commented, I was like, they're gonna lose this game because I was like, what's gonna end up happening is South Carolina's gonna do something stupid, or they're just gonna give up the game. And you saw what they did. They literally gave up the game to Texas A&M. Right out of half, actually. Marcel Reed, actually funny. He put on his caption on TikTok. I believe he said sorry about the first half or something like that, or he either tweeted it or did it on a TikTok video. But I saw that and I was like, dude, there's no way you're doing this right now. But you know, it it's not shocking that South Carolina did this. It's just been a bad road for South Carolina this year. Like we heard all the preseason hype, and I was one of them as an analyst. I was like, I think at the start of the season, I think South Carolina is going to finish the season 9-3, 10-2. They'll be either on the verge of a playoff spot or be one of the last teams in. And I was really high on Lenore Sellers. I mean, he is a good quarterback, but this A&M team, whether you like it or not, they are a good football team. And teams are going to make mistakes. Teams are going to almost lose games. Teams are going to look terrible in halves. I mean, that's just the way football is. That's why football's so fun. And A&M is one of those teams that's going to make those mistakes in the first half sometimes. But they're able to bounce back with great coaching and great playmaking. And you saw they were able to do that Saturday against South Carolina, get a big win. And let's not jump to conclusions that A&M is a bad football team, because I still have this team making it as far as maybe the final 4 teams in the playoff, because A&M is just one of those teams that's really dominant, and they have been all year. I know they haven't played much of anybody, but I really have high hopes for A&M going into the college football playoff, because I think they'll beat Texas, even though it's at Texas, and then they got a cupcake this week against Samford. So A&M should be smooth sailing from there. And they're probably going to play in the SEC championship as well. And if they win that, that would be outstanding, because that'd be their first ever SEC championship, and great for Aggie Nation. But I have high hopes for this team in Texas A&M. I think they will go on moving forward. They'll be really good. I think they'll put this win behind them, this close win behind them, and they'll move on and be able to do the right thing. And Marcel Reed, great game by him in the second half. First half did not look like a Heisman contender, but second half sure did. He was making those great throws, and his receivers had to make the catches, and they were doing that. But great win from Texas A&M to come from behind. And South Carolina, all I can say is there's always next year. Shane Beamer already has you in the college football playoff hunt, according to his tweets. So maybe you make it, maybe you don't. I mean, we just got to see how things play out. If you guys keep Lenore Sellers, then maybe I'll say that you guys will be good. But until then, it's the most South Carolina thing I've ever seen done, because South Carolina always figures out a way to have a bad season after they have a good one. So, yeah, Texas A&M wins 31-30 in Aggie Land, and they will go play Samford this weekend at 11 a.m. And then our next game on the slate, we finally move away from the SEC, and we're going to go to the ACC/independent. This was College Game Day, actually, which, I mean, I get it, ranked versus ranked, but yeah. CJ Carr, 212 yards, 21 for 32, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And then Mason Hines, I don't even know how to say his name, sorry, but Mason Heinstuhl, I think is how you say his name. I don't know. 128 yards. 16 for 33 and 1 interception. Pitt, man, I had hope in the beginning because I thought Notre Dame was fraudulent. I still think they are, but Pitt just did not look good in this game. The interceptions, the lack of moving the ball for Pitt was just not good at all from the start. I watched that game and then I turned it off because I was like, this game is very bad. I thought this was one of the worst game days we've seen in a while. Um, but Notre Dame, man, CJ Carr came in there and he balled out. I mean, he didn't have to do much, but he balled out. And then Jeremiah Love made some outstanding plays as well. And this Notre Dame team got a huge win against Pitt, 37-15. And Notre Dame, yes, they're going to make the college football playoff. For those that hate it, I hate it too. I don't think they should deserve it, but they do. And Pittsburgh, I guess, will make a good bowl game, but this was not a good game for Pittsburgh. They still have a chance to do something, eliminate Georgia Tech from the ACC championship. They have a chance to do that, but I don't think they will. Even when it's in Atlanta, I think it's gonna be tough to do. But this Pittsburgh team got two tough teams in Georgia Tech and Miami the next few weeks, and I really just don't have hope in Pittsburgh for the rest of the season. But a good year for Pittsburgh. They weren't really expected to do much, but just couldn't do it here against Notre Dame, which really sucks. But always a chance next year. But yeah, Pittsburgh and Notre Dame 37-15, and Notre Dame locks himself up as a college football playoff team, I would say, because looks like I think they're the 8th seed in the bracket. I'll just have to see later. And then going to some Big Ten action. This is Iowa versus USC. We're going to get the stats first. Mark Gronowski, I think is how you say his name. 132, 13 for 18, 1 TD and 1 reception. And Jaden Mayava, 254 yards, 23 for 32 and 1 TD. Another great game for Jaden Mayava in this one. USC gets a big win. USC actually, I mentioned this in my post on Saturday after they won. I said USC sneaking up as a 12-team playoff team, and they actually are. They've sneaked up in the rankings. This USC team has started to become noticeable the past few weeks. Jaden Mayava has had a bunch of great games this season against really good teams. I don't know who they have left on their schedule, but USC, they got to win their last 2 games if they want to put themselves in the college football playoff talk at least, or maybe they can put themselves in there if some teams lose. But USC beats Iowa on Saturday. A great win from the Trojans. And then on Iowa's side of things, I mean, I kind of expected this going to USC. USC actually has a louder crowd than most people would expect. And then Iowa's just not been good offensively the past few weeks. Only scoring about, I think, an average of 14 to 15 points a game. But Iowa was just not able to get it done against USC on Sunday. And the Trojans got a big win. But like I said, USC sneaking up to a possible college football playoff spot. We'll just have to see the next few weeks, even conference championship week, how that's going to work out. But really interested to see how USC maybe can sneak their way in there. If not, I think USC will end up playing in the Pop-Tarts Bowl or something like that. They'll play in some decent bowl game, and they'll probably finish the season with maybe 9 wins or 10 wins, which will be a pretty good year for USC. They were not expected to do much this year. But that's going to do it for Week 12 college football recap. Not much on the slate this past week, just kind of a dull week for college football. Also a dull week coming up, but we're going to move to Week 13 pick'em or Week 13 just highlights and preview. So guys, current picking record 51-50. We went 5-4 this week. We were 4-5 the week before. We went 5-4 this week, and actually, I will get to that in a little bit. But basketball picks we did really good. But yeah, 5-4 this past week. We're 51-50, just above 500 at 545. Hoping to get higher. The highest we've gotten all season, I believe, is 5 over 500. So trying to get those football picks up because football picks are ending when conference championship week. No, actually, they end when the season ends. So yeah, we'll be really disappointed when that happens. But we're gonna move to our first game out of looks like the 2. Yeah, the first out of 2 this week that we're doing, and we're gonna go to College Game Day in Eugene, Oregon. It is USC versus Oregon. Both teams looking to keep playoff hopes alive. And this is a big game because if USC beats Oregon, this could be one of those things that, because USC's 15th in the college football playoff rankings, Oregon's 7th. If USC wins, USC puts himself in the college football playoff. Oregon is out. Oregon's currently a 9.5 point favorite. The total is 59.5, and then the money line is plus 290 for USC. This game's 2:30 CBS. This is a big game. I am going to pick Oregon in this game, but don't be surprised if this one's close. Jade Mayava has thrown the ball really well this season, but the defense for USC is a really big question mark on that side of the ball. I think Dante Moore's going to have a fun time throwing to his receivers. But if USC and Oregon are able to, score back and forth, I think USC wins the battle in a shootout, because for some reason I just think it's going to be close if, USC is able to keep the offense going, because Oregon's defense is pretty good. But if USC is able to do that, then this game could go USC's way. But we'll have to see. Lincoln Riley, I'm sure, has a great game plan, but the defense has got to step up if USC wants to win. But right now, I got the Ducks winning this one in Eugene on College Game Day. And then our last game of the Week 13 preview, it's going to be Pitt versus Georgia Tech. The reason I highlighted this one is if Georgia Tech wins, with a win, they will clinch the ACC title game. And I think Georgia Tech will win this game easily. The only reason I'm saying this is because this is going to be one of the first teams to clinch their title game. So Georgia Tech, I think we'll get a big win in Atlanta. Haynes King finally getting Georgia Tech to where they wanted. Brent Key has wanted to build a program at Georgia Tech for so long. He finally has done it. And, Georgia Tech's going to continue to ride this momentum into postseason play for conference championship and maybe even a college football playoff appearance for the Yellow Jackets. I got the Yellow Jackets winning this one big. And this one, you can tune into that on Saturday at 6 o'clock on ESPN. It's a night game, so Pittsburgh versus Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's only a 2.5-point favorite. You see Vegas does not really think highly of Georgia Tech winning this game, but we'll just have to see what happens there. But yeah, folks, that's going to do it for Week 13 preview. Not much on the slate, but next week, guys, it is going to be a fun one where we will have almost all the big rivalry games: the Iron Bowl, the Egg Bowl, the the old-fashioned hate rivalry, the big game rivalry. We'll have all of that and more next week, highlighting the biggest week besides Week 1 and the biggest week besides Conference Championship Week and the College Football Playoff. In college football next week should be a great one on the show next week for college football. But we're going to talk some college basketball. We're going to move on to that now. College basketball week preview. Our current picking record, 19-5. We went for the first time ever in history on the show perfect 12-0 in any of our pick'ems, or undefeated in any of our pick'ems, and it was outstanding to see that I was able to go 12-0 for a basketball pick'em. But we had some games yesterday and had some games Monday, but we're gonna go look at those college basketball games as well. Also, take a look at the college basketball rankings here really quick. The new rankings came out Monday about lunchtime. And a new number one has emerged. Purdue got 44 first-place votes, and then Houston dropped one spot after playing close with a tough Auburn Tigers team. No bias, guys. You see the flag back here, but no bias. Auburn did play a pretty close game. I actually had Auburn losing that game, so Houston finished out my picking record for me at a perfect 12-0. And then UConn stayed the same at 3. Arizona moved up one spot to 4. Duke dropped back 5 because they didn't really play anybody. They played Army, was their only game. And then Louisville jumps into the top 10 at number 6. Actually, some people on TikTok were saying, why is Louisville at 6 in my rankings? Or not 6, but why is Michigan at 6 in my rankings? And I'm like, Michigan's still a pretty good team. But Louisville's also, I think, at 7 or something like that. But don't judge me on that. That's my personal view on the rankings, who I think should go places. And then Michigan drops back to 7. Illinois climbs up into the top 10 at 8. BYU drops back 2 spots after dropping a game to UConn last week at 9. Florida stays the same at 10. Alabama drops back 3 spots after losing a close one to newly number 1 Purdue in Tuscaloosa. And then Kentucky drops back 3 spots. They did lose last night. We'll highlight that here soon. And then Gonzaga comes up 6 spots after they win 2 big games on their season, Arizona State and Creighton. And then St. John's drops back 1. Texas Tech drops back 1. Iowa State, Michigan State, and UNC stay the same. UCLA drops 4 spots after losing to Arizona. Tennessee stays the same. Arkansas stays the same. And Auburn stays the same. And then Wisconsin climbs up one spot to 23. Kansas goes up to 24. And NC State climbs in the rankings at 25. And Will Wade and his squad get that last spot in the rankings. But looking at, the new basketball rankings, they look pretty solid. Everything looks good. But going to go to those scores from Monday and Tuesday night. We're going to look at those really quick here. And just Monday night, I don't really think was much of anything. I don't think there was that many good games. We actually have some tournaments going on. The only big game for Monday night was Will Wade's squad faced off at home against a VCU team that was tough. NC State only won 85-79 in that game. It was a pretty close game, closer than expected. But NC State was able to pull out with a win. And then Gonzaga topped Southern Utah 122-50. Stonehill lost to Iowa State 96-57. And then Tennessee beat Rice 91-66. And then Wisconsin beat SIU Edwardsville 94-69. That was all the top 25 games from Monday night. And then going into Tuesday, last night was the State Farm Championships Classic. But this one, the first game of the evening was Michigan State and Kentucky. This was in New York in Madison Square Garden. Kentucky got demolished by Michigan State. Mark Pope said that his squad was not ready for that game. He said his coaching was just not good. I heard it this morning on an interview, and you see Tom Izzo's squad was able to get a big win against a Kentucky team that I really had hopes for starting the season. Still a lot of basketball to play. Got not even close to March yet. We're only in November, early parts of the season, but Kentucky gets it handed to them in Madison Square Garden. Lost 83-66, and then Duke, the number 5 team in the country, defeats Kansas 78-66 in a big matchup in the second game of the night. And that was a huge thing that happened. And you saw the Boozer twins had another good game, and Duke was able to get a big win. And then North Carolina beat Navy last night 73-61. And then UCLA beat Sacramento State 79-48. And Arkansas escaped at home with a victory by 1 point against Winthrop, and was able to win 84-83. But I think they should have lost that game. They were down by 5 with like a minute to go. So Arkansas struggling early on in the season. And then going to tonight, you have Auburn playing Jackson State at 8 p.m. tonight. That's happening in about 3 hours. And then Michigan and Middle Tennessee tip off here soon. Michigan favored by 27 in this one. And then 2 bigger games later on tonight is Arizona, number 4 in the country, versus UConn, who is number 3 in the country. UConn favored by 4, but this is a big game in Connecticut. And then Alabama traveling to Illinois. This game's at 8 o'clock. And it's number 11 versus number 8, and this should be a big game as well. I picked Bama to win against Illinois, and I picked UConn to win against Arizona, but those should be 2 big games later tonight. And then let's look into Thursday. Thursday, Purdue goes to the Baja Mar Championship against Memphis. It's 1-2 Memphis versus 4-0 Purdue at 5 o'clock. And then Bucknell will play St. John's tomorrow at 6 o'clock on TNT and True TV. Don't know why that's happening. It's not even a big game. And then Tennessee State will travel to Knoxville to play the Volunteers. And then a big game in the Baja Mar Championship is Wake Forest and Texas Tech. Wake Forest, a sneaky ACC squad this year, looking to make a run to the tournament, to the NCAA tournament this year. And they almost defeated Michigan on the road last week, but it looks like they're going to be facing off against a good Texas Tech team who's ranked 15th in the country right now. They'll be facing off at 7:30 tomorrow night on CBS Sports Network. And then number 2 Houston will be at home facing Rider at 8 p.m. tomorrow, and that should be a good game for Houston. They'll be able to get a refresher after playing a tough Auburn team with a lot of guys banged up. And then moving to Friday's games, Duke will play in the Brotherhood Run in their own tournament against Niagara. And then Wisconsin will play BYU in the Bad Boy Motors Series in Salt Lake City at 3 p.m. on Peacock on Friday. Should be a great game to tip off this Thanksgiving break slate of games. And then in the Hoops Classic, Louisville will be playing Cincinnati. Both of those teams 4-0. Cincinnati looks like a sneaky squad, could possibly make the tournament. That's at 5:30 on ESPN2. And then Michigan State will play Detroit Mercy at 5:30. Merrimack playing Florida at 6 p.m. Loyola, Maryland playing Kentucky at 6, and then Jackson State will travel to Arkansas to play them at 7 o'clock, and then Presbyterian will play UCLA in the Empire Classic campus game at 9:30 on Friday night. And then going to Saturday, we will look into those games as well. Only one game, it's Long Island University versus Illinois. Not many teams playing because college football Saturday. And then Sunday, you will have the Brotherhood Run Game 2, Howard versus Duke, and then Bryant will tip off against UConn later on in the day. But that's going to do it for the College Basketball Weekly Scoreboard. And I will just flash my picks up here really quick so you guys can see them for the week, see what picks I made and who you think could win those games. Let me know in the comments. But we're going to move on now. We're going to move to some NFL, actually. A lot to talk about in the NFL for Week 11 recap. We're going to move into it now, and we are going to start off with Bryce Young having a record-breaking game against the Atlanta Falcons. Went 31 for 45, 448 yards passing, and you see that Bryce Young just had an outstanding performance against the Falcons. Panthers won 30-27 in overtime against the Falcons and improved to 6-5 on the season. Look like they're making a playoff push. We'll talk about that later, about the Panthers game coming up on Monday night. But Bryce Young has a career day. And what does this mean for Bryce Young? We had Dennis Cox last week on the episode, and this a big turning point for Bryce Young in his career. Really able to show that I think he can start to pass the ball efficiently. It's got to be a consistent thing, and I think Dave Canales was lacking trust from Bryce Young the first 2 years, or the first year last year. I think he lacked a lot of trust, but then finally when he saw what Bryce could do, he started letting him throw it. But then the same thing happened to start of this year, and then I think he was like, if we want to make the playoffs or win some more games, we're going to have to let Bryce sling the thing. And sure enough, he's done that this game against the Falcons, and really interested to see what he can do against the 49ers. But Bryce Young just looked efficient in that game, was throwing to almost every guy. Tedesco McMillan, shout out to him, the rookie wide receiver from Carolina. 8 catches, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then Xavier Legette, 4 receptions, 83 yards, 1 touchdown. Rico Dowdle got in on the action. He had 55 receiving yards, almost a touchdown. And then Jalen Coker also got in the action, had 72 receiving yards. Bryce Tremaine even got in the action, and Tommy Tremble had probably one of the biggest plays of the game, 54-yard catch and run that led the Panthers to field goal range in overtime and inevitably led to Ryan Fitzgerald kicking the game-winning field goal for the Carolina Panthers. But Bryce Young highlights Sunday with a huge performance against the Atlanta Falcons, and the Panthers moved to 6-5. And Bryce Young hoping to get this Panther squad into the playoffs for the first time since 2017. But moving on now to our next headline, it is the Dolphins' walk-off win against the Commanders in overtime in Madrid. This was the 8:30 game on Sunday. If you guys were awake for that, the Dolphins have been struggling recently, but they are on a little bit of a winning streak, looking like they could possibly sneak into a playoff spot if some things go wrong in the AFC. And if the Dolphins are able to get a big win, then another big win or two, then they will be in the playoffs because they're only 4-7, so they're not officially eliminated. But this Dolphins team's surging, and they won this game against the Commanders in Madrid, 16-13. Just not a good game. This is the first game the Commanders have without Jaden Daniels. Actually, the second game without Jaden Daniels under center. Marcus Mariota's had to be under center, and then Tua has been under center for the Dolphins. And he's been looking good this weekend, last week, and the week before. So the Dolphins seem they've kind of figured things out. And so the Mike McDaniel firing talk has kind of went away, but we'll see how that goes the next few weeks. But the Dolphins win 16-13 in Madrid. And then going to the Bills and Buccaneers games, the Bills outlast the Bucs in a huge AFC versus NFC matchup. The Bills won 44-32. And this is actually good news for Panthers fans. The Buccaneers losing that game. Now the Panthers are only a half game out of first place. And Josh Allen had an outstanding performance. If you had him in fantasy, he almost had 40 fantasy points in just a great game from him. Able to get a big win where the Bills, and it was a huge momentum win considering they lost to the Dolphins the week prior, and just had a horrible performance against Miami. But they bounced back in Buffalo and were able to beat Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay looks to be struggling, even though Bucky Irving looks like he probably will come back this week. But we'll see how that goes. We'll see what the training staff for Tampa Bay says about that. And then the right here, just looking at the last game of the NFC matchups, like NFC West matchup, actually, it's the Rams. They beat the Seahawks and take first place in the NFC West for sure now. Seahawks were surging, the Rams were surging, but Sam Darnold had one of his worst performances of the season, threw 3 or 4 INTs in this game. The Rams defense was stepping up really big. Their offense wasn't doing that much, but the Rams defense was able to step up big and limit Sam Darnold from throwing those great passes and limit him from doing things that he usually could do. And you see what happened there, that the Rams were able to get a big win and, able to improve and lead the NFC West. And looking ahead here, or looking at the last thing for Week 11, it's playoffs or no playoffs for the Chiefs. What is wrong with Patrick Mahomes? You know, the Chiefs lose to the Broncos 22-19 on Sunday. They have the Colts next week. They have a few more tough teams on their schedule. But can the Chiefs still make the playoffs? Or mathematically, yes, and hypothetically, yes. But actually, I don't think the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs. I feel bad for Chiefs fans, but I really just don't see the Chiefs making the playoffs. The team this year has been down. It's been I feel like a lot of teams have figured out the Kansas City Chiefs this year and been able to stop them. And I think almost just about any team in the NFL right now that's a good or competing team could beat the Chiefs. And yeah, if Mahomes is not on his A game, which he wasn't against the Broncos, then they're not winning anything anytime soon. And they're playing the Colts this Sunday at 12 o'clock, and that's, Daniel Jones has been performing really good. Coming off the bye week, they're really healthy now. So Mahomes is going to have some trouble with Daniel Jones and those guys. So yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to drop to 5-6, which is crazy to say after being in the Super Bowl just a year ago and had one of the better records in the NFL. Well, that's going to do it for Week 11 recap. We're going to move now to Week 12 preview for the NFL, and it's the Bucs and Rams on Sunday Night Football. How can the Buccaneers finally, end the Rams winning streak? The Rams have seemed to figure things out. They seem like they're a Super Bowl contender in my eyes. I think they'll probably win the Super Bowl. But the Bucs have just been struggling. I don't know if they can really, limit that winning streak. They might be able to do some stuff defensively that will affect the Rams going into Carolina next week. But I think the Rams easily win this one on Sunday Night Football. And I think the Bucs dropped to 6-5 on the season, and that's really crazy to say because if you're a Bucs fan, you're getting scared now because Carolina's creeping up at your door and they're knocking and they're like, we're here too. So you got to look out for us as well. And yeah, the Bucs I think dropped this one to the Rams on Sunday night, and it should be a crazy game there on Sunday Night Football. And the last headline for the show, it's going to be, can the Panthers be consistent and upset the 49ers on Monday Night Football? And the answer to that question is yes. Okay, so I've been researching it a lot at the start of this week, and it's come to my attention. The 49ers defense is not very good. The 49ers offense is good enough, but I think what's going to happen in this game on Monday Night Football, I think Bryce Young's going to throw for about 250, 260 passing yards, have another good game. I think the run game will be mediocre. I think the defense for the Panthers will step up in some big ways, and I think Brock Purdy's going to have some trouble finding his receivers. And I think the Panthers are going to win this game. As a Panthers fan, but I think the Panthers are actually going to win this game against the 49ers and put themselves in outstanding playoff position with just 6 weeks to go in the season, and Bryce Young's finally found that spark. And I think, I've heard some people like, oh well, I've heard some people that are analysts around, just NFL things. They're like, well, Panthers aren't very good; they're mediocre at best. And I've seen some people say that they're just trash, basically. And there's been some 49ers fans that are like, as 49ers fans, we should not be taking this game lightly. Even as the 49ers, we should not be taking this game lightly because looking at the 49ers schedule, their two big wins are against the Seahawks and the Rams. Other than that, they haven't really beaten any notable teams. So if the Panthers can take advantage of their disadvantages, which I would say are, definitely, I would say pass game. If you can pressure Brock Purdy, they're going to have trouble. And then if you can limit Christian McCaffrey's running ability, then that's going to be a real big turning point in that game. And then if Bryce Young is consistent, on point, not turning over the ball, and the run game is mediocre to a decent, good run game, I think then the Panthers win this game by, I think, probably 4 to 5 points. I think this is going to be a close game, but I think the Panthers will win this game on Monday Night Football and get their playoff chances to a really good high. And this will be a really good game for the Panthers to prove to the national just eyes that they are a contender, and I believe they're a contender. But that is going to do it for episode 29 of the Halftime Sports Talk Show. I'm your host, Reese Kinder. As always, just a great episode this week. Next week, Rivalry Week. Some more NFL, some more college basketball, but Rivalry Week is more important. Should be a great week next week, and I'm really excited to see where this all goes. But, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, follow us on Instagram. We're getting more Instagram followers. Check out our videos on TikTok, our posts as well. Go on Twitter if you can, on X, and check us out as well. And we're also on Facebook. But, yeah, that is going to do it for episode 29. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week and stay safe.